The success of Clearwater Southern's intermodal harbor has been a huge benefit to Magnolia County. And no place has benefited more than Chairity Bay, the small company town built to support the harbor. It has grown rapidly, and with this growth has come the need for more structure, and residents have been lobbying their state representatives to formally incorporate into the village of Chairity Bay, something that Governor Sheila Johnson has been proud to champion. But Governor Johnson's interest in the area is not just in the small community, she's also taken a deep interest in the port itself, believing that a private port is not in the best interest of the state or the county. Currently, public officials are not provided with information about the operations of the harbor. However, those operations have a significant impact on the wear and tear of the surrounding transportation network, a network that is the responsibility of the county and state. She speaks with Clearwater Southern's new COO, Jamila Jones, about the idea of transferring ownership of the harbor to a new harbor district, only to be swiftly shot down. Jamila explains that the schedules are trade secrets and that exposing them would negatively impact her company. To make such an arrangement worth their while, they'd need additional incentives or rationale to support the concept. The governor sweetens the deal by offering 3 things. First, she makes a commitment that the harbor district would take full ownership and responsibility of the harbor, including full maintenance of the harbor. Second, she provides assurances that the harbor district would take ownership of all of the private roads in the area, shifting maintenance responsibilities to the district. Third, she commits to letting Clearwater Southern retain ownership of the tracks leading to the harbor, providing them with control over who's able to use the tracks and when that use would occur. And finally, she makes Jamila aware of the county's interest in finding a home for a new wastewater treatment complex. She vows to find a way for the state to purchase land from Clearwater Southern for the creation of this complex and to locate it at the harbor itself. Jamila knows that this is a great deal for Clearwater Southern, but presses a hard bargain anyway, and says that the only way that she could take this back to her board of directors is if there are assurances that State Highway 203 will be expanded to 4 lanes through Charity Island. The governor quickly agrees without realizing just how much this project is going to cost the state, but that's a discussion for another day. Before long, a memorandum of understanding is signed transferring ownership of the harbor to the newly established Magnolia County Harbor District. At the same time, the village is statutorily created and land for the wastewater treatment complex is purchased by the state and transferred to Magnolia County. The newly created village of Chairity Bay appears anxious to shed its image as a dreary company town. It holds a referendum to establish a school district that is quickly approved. It then issues millions in bonds to build parks, a marina, and other recreational amenities for the community. To pay for this, its new zoning code enables more density than the original Clearwater Southern plans had envisioned for the area. In this episode, we're going to focus on the rapid expansion of Chairity Bay. We'll build a wastewater treatment complex, 3 new parks, 2 new school campuses, some new city services, a marina, and develop a few new neighborhoods. We're also going to introduce a couple of new mods into this build for the sake of my sanity and yours. And I'll show you how to use developer mode in incredibly creative ways to do things that you shouldn't be able to do in Cities Skylines too. And if you're excited to see Chairity Bay rapidly expand, hit the like button. And if you think it's perfect just the way it is, hit the like button for that too, and let me know how you feel down in the comments. Or drop an emoji of a ship for the sake of engagement. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, welcome back to Chairity Bay in Magnolia County, and we've got a good one today. We are going to be building the other half of Chairity Bay. But before we get to that, I want to talk about some of the mods that I'm introducing to the build and tell you why I'm adding them. The first mod that we're going to add is Extended Road Upgrades. Now, this is a mod that allows you to take any road in the game and upgrade it to be a different type of road. So this would have been really helpful in the previous one because we could add a key wall to any road, we could add a retaining wall, elevate any road, or turn it into a tunnel. So this isn't things that you couldn't do in a vanilla game, it's just going to make it a ton easier for us. And when we expand the harbor, it's going to be an absolute breeze. I can't wait to show you. The second mod that I'm adding is Extra Landscaping Tools. Now, this is found in the landscaping menu, and it gives you the ability to do 2 things. First, it allows you to paint surfaces. So the reason why we're using this tool to enable the painting of surfaces is the other way to do it is by using the home menu, the add object menu within the developer tools. So I can do this, no problem, and I can search for a surface like, say, concrete surface, the exact same as over here. However, when I close this menu, to get that menu back, I have to restart the game. Less than ideal, which is why we've added Extra Landscaping Tools. The other thing that this mod enables is the ability to paint resources, but we are resourced out in this map, so we're not going to worry about that at all. The next mod that I've added is Tree Controller, and this mod allows you to change the age of trees. I'm not going to be doing any of that. I don't really care about that. The part of this that I care about are the forestry brushes. So if you go into Place Multiple, you'll notice that we get these 3 different sets that we can use to paint forests. And that's what I'm most interested in. So we have the ability to paint a deciduous forest, an evergreen forest, or a bunch of bushes. I think it's just going to be a good quality of life thing for me. And then the last mod I've added is preserve photo mode. And this is one that allows you to do exactly what it says. You can go into photo mode and adjust the settings. And when you close photo mode, you get to retain those settings. So I think that the big one is to adjust the contrast level. You can see it's more grayed and washed out. And when I enable this, it just looks more vibrant. Now, obviously, there are other mods that could have been valuable, such as Anarchy, but I've decided to steer clear of those and think that these couple of mods are going to be a great addition to the set. Now, if anything I've said about these mods interests you, or you have questions about other mods, the last video that I put out actually goes over some of my favorite mods for Cities Skylines 2, so check it out at the link above. And with that out of the way, let's move on to our highway widening and relocation. Now, you might be surprised to hear that we are going to be relocating this highway as we widen it, but there are really two reasons why I think this is important. First and foremost, we have 2nd Street right here, which is going to be an arterial. And if we have the highway right here and we keep it in place, we've got 2 arterials that are basically in parallel, and that could be a problem down the line. The second reason is this is where all of our development is occurring. We're going to have a park along the coast, and I just think it makes more sense to open up some developable land right here within the community. I think that would be a big benefit to Chairity Bay itself. So we are going to try to get this a little bit closer to the coast, and we'll begin that by extending this road right here as close to the water as we can. So we'll go up 7 units there. And my big concern now is going to be that I want to make sure that we are not going to bump this highway into our transformer right here if we go at a 90. And then we've got some concerns right here anyway that I'm looking forward to resolving. You can see there's a little bit of a hill right here. We've got this retaining wall, which is fine, but I don't love it. So we are going to grade this out. So we'll use our slope terrain tool. And now what I want to do is sweep this back around. But shifting this over is going to create another problem. We have to create a new bridge over here. And I think it's going to lead to a really interesting aesthetic. However, it would be very expensive. Now we're going to want to try to get over the train tracks. So what I'm going to do is just keep this relatively flat. And now I want to get up and over the train tracks. And now that we have that in place, we just need to tie this back in. So we'll decommission some more of this highway and sweep that right back through. Now, I think we'll take this up to the bridge, which I'm sure would be an absolutely loved thing. But like I mentioned, the bridge is very expensive, so I'm not going to upgrade that without a reason to do so. And now we need to vacate all of this right of way. I just want to make sure. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to be connected to power, water, and sewer. Looks like we're okay. And before we move on from this, we do need to rename this State Highway 203. Now, with our highway widening and relocation complete, let's move on to building our wastewater treatment complex. Now, our primary focus for this portion of the build is going to be our wastewater treatment complex, but we are going to be extending our harbor all the way to the highway as we build this. So we are going to need to make the topography respect us, and we are going to do some terrain flattening. And I thought about grabbing it from over here, but my concern is that we're going all the way over here, and I don't know that we came this far over when we measured the rest of the harbor. So let's grab the lowest height that we can from this side, considering the river should be higher over here. And it looks like that's too low, so we'll go up a meter higher. And there we go, no more flooding. Now, here's the game plan. We're going to take Railway Lane, extend it down, and have our wastewater treatment complex right here. And then directly to the right of that, we're going to have a bunch of industrial uses. But I want to carve the river back to go behind the industrial uses so that we can have harbor access on both sides. And then we'll send a new rail line right in the middle of all of it. And now I want to extend Railway Lane. And now it's time to place our wastewater treatment complex, but we've got to unlock it first. So we'll go into a progression menu underneath water, and there's our water treatment plant, 2 development points unlocked. And right here is why we are doing this. We currently have no sewage treatment in the county at all. And that was by design. I stubbed in an outside connection to sewage treatment because I didn't want to pollute the water to begin the game. But now that we've progressed a little bit further along, I think it makes sense to add this now. So we will add this right along this road right here. And technically this is plenty of treatment capacity for the county right now, but I want to do more. To me, this building doesn't look like a water treatment complex without some of the sub buildings. So I think we're going to add on, and considering we're adding this onto a harbor, I kind of just want to flesh it out right now. And we've got plenty of overhead, so I'm going to go for it. So to begin, let's level a bit more of the harbor. and I'm going to place this extra processing unit right in line with this. And normally if we wanted to add another one, it's going to turn and do some crazy stuff. I'm not into that, so we are going to try something else. So let's grab our alleyway. We'll clip onto the side of the building and have units in the grid on and 90s. And now here's where the interesting stuff's going to happen. I need to figure out exactly how far along here it is. It looks like it's 12 units. I can see that because of the legacy flavor mod. And now I'll go out 12 units from here and stub this up. Now you're probably thinking, why are you doing this? It's not going to matter because you can't turn it that way. But indeed we can't. I'm going to level this out first though. And now I'm going to hop into the dev menu. This is something that regardless of whether you're playing a vanilla game or not, you should be able to access by pressing the home button. We are going to type in water, and you can see that we've got our wastewater treatment plant extra processing units. And if we click on this, it's facing the wrong way. And if we try to use the right mouse button, it disappears. We've got a solution to this. We actually figured this out on the Twitch stream. So the water treatment facility will change its direction based on the way that this main building is facing. So right now I have it facing south. Now I'll escape out and try this out, and it's facing backwards. So I need to face this. I'm grabbing onto a road. I need to face this the same way as the other facility. Escape out of here, and now this is in the right direction. And we'll just place that right there. Perfect. And I want to go for one of these advanced filtration systems as well. And for this one, I almost think it would be better to turn it around. So we'll face that again towards this southern road, escape out, and now go into our wastewater treatment plant once more. And there we go. And if you're wondering if this is functional, indeed it is. You can see that we've got even more wastewater treatment production than we had before. And now we are actually at an equilibrium with our water trade because of our wastewater advanced treatment filtration system. So now let's finish this out. And I just want to wrap the roads around here. And now let's figure out the rest of our harbor. And I think I'm going to do something that's maybe a little bit more unique. We're going to bump this out. And what we'll do is we'll just extend this right here. And then I want this to come down at a 45. And now we're going to extend things out a bit further. And look at that. We went too low and we have water coming our way. That's not what I meant to do. Let's pull that back over up 1 meter. And now I want to leave enough space for there to be an opening. So I think we'll go to maybe about right here. And then I want to run, basically I want to have maybe 3 units on the top and bottom, and then a train track running down the middle. Then we just need to find a way to end this, to terminate this appropriately. And I'll have the key wall come up and then go right back down. There we go. I think that that's going to work out really well for us. So let's just finish this out. We need to make a couple of rail connections as well as some roadway connections. And there we go. I'm not sure that I love this, how tight this is right here. Maybe we can bump the road back. Maybe I just need to be okay with a bit of imperfection. We'll live with it for now. We'll live with that, but I might change that. For now, I do want to get this upgraded and turn this into a key. And to do that, we'll just go into our road services. Now we should be able to just select our key wall here, select the outside, and go around and just replace these with the key wall. And it's just this easy. Honestly, this really makes me think that this functionality should be included within the base game. It's so easy to do. And now all we have to do is carve this out and we're good to go. And now that things are filling in, we have smokestacks again, because that's, of course, we're going to have smokestacks. All of the smokestacks, they came back over here even when I didn't want them, and we got them back over here again because that's what we're going to do. And now that our wastewater treatment complex is done, let's move on to platting our new neighborhoods. For our planning process, we're going to be laying out the rest of the roads in Chairity Bay. And though it seems like there's room for a number of blocks through here, we're going to have a number of institutional uses that are going to be quite large and take up a lot of space, so there's actually not a lot to do. Where I want to begin though is close to the highway, because we are going to have a commercial center right here. Behind that we'll have some higher density uses. Then we'll have a park, and I'm thinking a school maybe right here, and a high school in this area right here. So let's begin by converting this highway to be temporarily an arterial. Now the reason that I want to do this is I want to be able to line up the zoning grid with our highway, and the only way I can get that is to convert this. And now I'm going to add a frontage road, which is where we're going to have some of these commercial uses. I think this would be a highly desirable spot for commercial uses because of the visibility from the highway. So a frontage road is basically a road that a business could take access from. So we'll lay this out right here, and then I'm going to extend the existing roads straight down into the highway, and now we can convert this back to a highway. Now reasonably, we can't leave these connections right here. You can already see the issue. The queuing distance is not long enough. So what I want to do is find some place in between these two intersections that we can move the access to this frontage road to. So we will add that right about here. We're going to use our complex curve tool to accomplish this. We'll send this up at a 90, about 5 units, and we'll go over directly to this. Click on this, go up another 5 units, and there we have our connection. And there we go. I wanted to add this one in first because this is going to be pretty detached from the rest of what we're doing over here. This is really going to be auto-oriented uses focused on the traffic driving by, whereas the rest of this is going to be uses that are focused on the city and the neighborhood itself. Let's begin with our arterial, and this is 2nd Street. This is going to proceed all the way through. I want to look at the terrain because I think that we're going to need to send this up this way, kind of close to where we had this connection. But I'm going to back this out just a bit so that we can address the slope right here, because it's really extreme right now. And that is much, much, much better. Now for 1st Street, I want to parallel 2nd Avenue. So I'm going to send this up starting from this road right here, which is 7th Street. And let's pre-grade this because it's pretty messy right now. And then I'm going to send this up what I believe is too far. I wanted this stub here for a very specific reason, and that's our roadway naming. You can see it's already changed the name of this road. It's Aspen Street now. We'll fix that. And I think I may actually do something like that. I don't know. I don't love this, but it's the only option that we have right now. So for the time being, I'm going to try to step away. What I want to do now is mirror this road down here. And I might go up a couple more units because I know that our school is going to be back here. And I want to leave enough room for the school campus. And that should be about as close to parallel as is possible. Now I want to run a road up here, kind of doing what we did over here as well. That's about 14 units, so we'll do something similar over here. And now this is where things are going to get interesting. So we need to level some things out. And what I'm thinking that we're going to do is try to make it appear that we took the top of this and pushed it over here. And I will try my best to leave a ledge. And before we add this next road, which will tee in at what is now being called Rosewood Street, but is actually 2nd Street, before we actually add this new road, I want to put the high school here first. Now, the main reason for that is just the size of this asset itself. I really think that the asset should probably be leading the roadway design. And I was trying to position this so that we could still access the side of the building right here because I think it would be a good location for some overflow parking. I also wanted to make sure that we could have a road directly in front of here leading towards this section right here. And the significance of this is where we used to have our highway, and it's where we still would have right-of-way. So we are going to preserve that right-of-way, move a road back in here, and I have a grand plan for this entire area. I think we're going for something like this. Now, a generous person could call this distance right here suboptimal, but reasonably, we're going to let it slide in this particular instance because this entire area is going to be a cul-de-sac. So it would be a problem in the mornings. I assume that this would really queue up, but it's really only during the school season and only during the mornings and evenings. And you're probably going to have crossing guards here anyway to help with the backups. Now, for the rest of this area, we are going to add a road along the side of the high school. And now we've basically created the residential equivalent of a frontage road. Now, one of the things that I don't love here is that we're taking zoning from this arterial, and that was never my intention. So we'll just have some sort of a path connection along here to block that zoning. And one of the unfortunate things about the roundabouts is that they just don't really allow you to connect paths very elegantly. So we'll just remove that and we'll go with something like that. And with that, you might think that we are done with our layout, but there's one more thing I want to add. I want to add a stadium. And that might sound completely crazy because how do you add a stadium when you don't have any space? You've got one way. The exact same way that we added these down here, we're going to add our stadium. So hit the home button. We'll type in high school and we want to orient this towards the highway most likely. We're not going to have a lot of space here. So I'm going to grab the high school first. So I will pull this to right here. Hit the escape button. Now we'll grab the sports field. Oh, wow. This thing is bigger. That is a problem. I'm going to place that right here. And where I'm most concerned is right here. I added this train track and reasonably it has no purpose short of I think that it looks neat. So this might be an instance where I've got to call a mulligan on an it looks neat project. We'll see though. I'm going to try to add a key wall here. We'll see how this looks. Yeah, and I'm leaning towards just removing this. I think it looks pretty bad there. So what you see happening is it seems like if a train were to come, it would hit the side of the hill. So this wasn't necessary. We're going to call a mulligan on this and remove it. And it's still going to be tight, but I think we can get away with it. And I want this, if it can be, I'd like this to just be a normal road. And what I'm thinking is we'll have a pedestrian facility over here because we're going to bridge over the top. We'll have some parking facilities over here, and then we'll find a way down right here. Now that we've got our entryway into the stadium complete and our parking set, we are going to add some pedestrian access. And I want to go with one of these nicer bridges that we have. And I think that either the covered pedestrian bridge or the pedestrian arch bridge should work for us. This cable stayed bridge won't work because we'd be in the middle of the train tracks. So I think I want to go with this one. And there are our two connections. And I really, really like that. Now, the one thing, we've got this extending a bit further than it should. We probably don't need that. That'll do the trick for us. And then I don't love what's happening right here with the surfaces. I'm going to see if I can fix this. So we'll go into our surfaces tool. And remember, I could do this up here by searching for a surface as well. What I'm going to try to do is just take the surface, this one right here, just the concrete, and pull it back. So it seems like no matter what surface is right here, it's going to have some level of unhappiness with us. But if we're going to have a surface here, I think that the grass surface makes a bit more sense. So I think that we'll go with that. It's not perfect, but it is perfectly acceptable. And we can add some landscaping here anyway, which I think we probably should. And then finally, I want to adjust the hill back here a little bit. Before we move on, I have to. Let's see how this goes. And remember that whole thing I said about attempting to leave a cliffside? You know, I'm going to go back on that and I'm going to attempt to restore one that maybe folks will be happier with right here by 7th Street. I just can't. I got to think about the children. And children near this cliffside, not great. Very good. And now I'm going to place a couple more things while this menu is open, knowing that we won't be able to do this after I close it. So I'm going to place an elementary school. And then I want to run a road along the side here. We'll try to leave about a unit or so separation. That will be good. And now I want to add a playground to this, but again, I don't want to worry about adding this to the side of the school. So we'll just type in elementary and we can add the playground, and this will again be lined up with the school if we don't change anything. So I want this to line up kind of like this. So I'm rotating the school around, hit escape, grab the playground. There we go. And then I'll add a path to this so that we can still reach it. And I think we'll go with something like that for the playground. And this also gives us the opportunity to place the children's healthcare clinic where we think it makes the most sense as well. And I'm going to place that right about here. So let's add our elementary school. We'll add that off the side of Cedar Street right here. So we'll place that, escape out, grab the clinic, and I'll place that right there. But I'm not done placing things. There's one more thing I want to place. So the cemeteries have a temple, and I think that that will be a nice addition to this community. So I'm going to add that right here on Cedar Street as well. And now the community will have a church as well. But I'm giving this a bit more thought. Churches need a lot of parking reasonably. It's a once a week sort of deal, but you're not getting by without a parking lot of some sort unless it's in a very urban environment. So we'll place that right here, and then let's add some parking right next to it. Now, this is something that I've dealt with directly, and it is a challenge. But the churches that I've worked with have been generally very good about sharing their parking, which is always a good thing as well. And while we're back here, one more playground as well. Now, do know that as you place these, they do function and they do have a cost. So this is $5,000 per month to upkeep that playground. And there we go. We've placed a whole bunch of custom assets through here. So I'm going to close this menu. And now if I hit home again, not going to work. But it's completely fine because we don't need the menu again. Look at all of the excellent things that we were able to do. This is really going to make this community feel special. And with our new neighborhood platted, let's move on to zoning. Zoning in this area is going to be fairly straightforward. Near our schools, we'll have some single family homes. And then as we work towards 2nd Street, the density will increase. And along 1st Street, we'll have almost nothing because we are going to focus all of our uses along the frontage road. There'll be low density commercial. We are going to need to also add a post office. And I believe we need to add some telecom towers so that we don't miss that. We're also going to probably need some parking. So let's begin with some of our lower density residential. And before we do that, I actually want to fix the cliff, restore the cliff, which everyone was calling for after the previous episode. So let's do it. This also gives us the opportunity to add additional zoning along here. And we are going to have a mix of North American and European single family residential. The zoning is really broken up along here though. We have extended road upgrades, so we could certainly just add a key right here. So I'm going to temporarily do that here. And you can see that refocuses the zoning along 7th Street, which is what we want anyway. And honestly, there's no harm in leaving this as a key if we were okay with it. It just adds that railing there, but I'm probably going to take it down anyway after we get this resolved. Now along Port Street, we can't use this tool because I don't want to lose the trees. So I think that we'll just run a path up here, and we might actually leave this one. So I'm going to follow our grid lines here. And we'll do something like that. So that blocks the zoning and it has a utilitarian purpose. It's a path. And now I'm going to add some smaller residential all the way along the backside of this cliff. This is an opportunity to maybe get some more affordable housing. So I will add these in fairly tight, and we'll go 2x2 all the way through here, maybe 2x3 a couple of times. And there we go. That is a nice array of some smaller size lots, which should really help us out a lot with affordability. Now I want to switch gears and focus a little bit on our frontage road and 1st Street over here. Now I went back and forth on how to work on this in the previous one. And initially I wanted to have some parking back here. And you see we've got a whole bunch of gas stations and other small scale uses, none of which have parking, which would be a problem. I've also decided to remove the parking on the street, which again, it's commercial. I'm sure that there would be tons of complaints. So what we're going to do here is extend this road down a bit. We're going to redevelop these properties. So we'll call a slight mulligan here. And there we go. I know that many of you are probably going to hate everything about this, but reasonably it does happen. And one of the reasons it would happen here is because as you drive up, you see the ample free parking and all of the businesses right there. Now over here, we're going to add some more commercial, but I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. We are going to block our zoning temporarily once again. And then for these, I want to change the aesthetic. We're going to try the European, see how they turn out. And though I think we can all agree that this isn't exactly beautiful, it's exactly what I was hoping for. It looks like a strip shopping center where you pull up, you park quickly, and then you leave. Now, I'm not sure if this space is actually going to work. You can see it's quite a ways away from the road, but we'll give it a shot. And then now that all of this stuff is filling in, I will get rid of this key wall. It's just as easy as right mouse clicking it to remove it. And that gives us a row of zoning if we want to take it. I think we actually probably want a row of landscaping back there to protect ourselves from the lights and the noise of the shopping center. Now, while this is filling in, let's start to think about this area. And the very first thing I want to do is think about our post office. And remember, the post office can have add-ons. So we do have space for one, not two. And now we have room for both. I'm going to see how this does before I immediately upgrade, but I want to make sure that we don't rule it out. So we won't zone here, and I will place our zoning with a gap in mind. And that will be about the extent of the density here. It will be very dense in comparison to the rest of this neighborhood, but I think it's going to be just fine. We'll come back over and take a look at that after we fill in this area. You might have noticed I added one park right here. We're going to do something very similar over here. And one of the reasons for that is I'm a little concerned about our air pollution. So as we take a look at this, we can see that, yeah, this part of the neighborhood is polluted. Our high school is polluted, but thankfully students don't care. So we are going to place a big, maybe a city park and a dog park over here. And then we can have some lower density residential uses in this area. We'll go European here. We'll just load it up. And there we go. We're going to need to keep an eye on this area because, again, I am concerned about the pollution, but I think it's the best that we can do. And now I just want to take a look at this little area of density to see if we've overdone it. I think you can make a strong argument that this is too much. So we will call a mulligan. And then while this is filling in, let's look at our post office. It still looks very tall. We might need to take that down one more time. Post office is doing just fine. Now, all of the vehicles are in use, so I may add this upgrade, and that may force our hand anyway. And that may make me want to just take this back just a little bit. And we'll add an alleyway right there. I think that that's probably a fairly good solution. Now, the density's a little bit weird. There's obviously always areas that we could improve in. I think one of those would be just simply giving that a go. That'll give us a smaller mixed-use building, but overall, I'm pretty okay with the way that it's turned out. And now with our zoning complete, let's move on to building some custom parks. And now I want to try to attempt to create 4 custom parks to bring some character to this area and make it feel different than the rest of the city. And I'm going to do this in order of their difficulty. So the first one will be a custom beach, and if you have extra landscaping tools, this is super easy. You could also do this with dev mode, but we're going to create a beach right here. And we'll begin by just adding in a road. And I'm doing this because I want to reuse the signalized intersection. And then we'll add a parking lot right here so that folks could drive here and park. And now I'm going to do something a little bit strange. And we're going to convert this to a dirt road and connect up right here with our transformer. I mentioned earlier I was not a huge fan of having this road providing access. This is our solution. And it looks kind of silly. We will leave this paved. And now that we have this here, we could simply draw in some sand. And there are 2 sand surfaces. I think sand surface 1 for my tastes looks a little bit better, but we'll take a look at both. Yeah, I think I like the lighter one more, but it's really a matter of personal preference. If you need to get rid of this though, all you have to do is right mouse click it. Once you have 2 left, it'll get rid of it. And then once again, because this is the area tool, it's as easy as just dragging it around, adding nodes and points. And I think that we'll add chairs and things like that to the beach in the future, but for now, this is going to be good enough for us. Now I want to switch gears and go over here, and I want to create a lookout point. So basically, we're going to create a pavement path with some lights along it, and then we'll add a bench at the end. So this should be very simple, but we don't have props and assets. That makes it very hard. So we are going to need to do a little bit of magic with the dev mode. So let's lower this so we can flatten this area out. I think we'll need to slope over. And one more over here. We'll come in between these homes. This would only happen ever if there were already an easement in place. So we'll just pretend that there was. This has always been here. And now I did save the game and reload in so I can push home again and I get our add object menu. So let's look for a bench. And why don't we add a gazebo as well? And then we'll finish this out with the campground table set. Now I'll remove some of these trees and we're going to use our surfaces. And then we'll finish this off with some park lighting. And there's a few different lights available. Number 1's pretty tall. Number 2 is pretty nice. And number 4 is really ornate. Now, it might seem really challenging to know where to place these, but if we go into Legacy Flavor, we can set this to night. Now, between those 2 mods, we have the ability to add some lighting and go all up and down here, just like we did in the original Cities Skylines, which I absolutely love. So let's add some lighting along our paths. Now I'm realizing I wasn't doing this the smartest way. I should probably be using the simple curve tool. That would be the easiest way. That's why we have the line tool in here. Absolutely brilliant. And there we go. That feels really good. That adds a lot of character to this area. And, you know, I probably should redo the lights around here because they're not wonderful, but I think that we'll forgive ourselves this one time. The other thing I want to do around here is to formalize this as a park space by adding some landscaping directly around it. And then after that, we've got to go back to daytime and take in some of the views. From this park, look at that. A beautiful view of the water. You could see all the ships spawning and power sliding, apparently, to get into town. Everyone loves a good power slide, and I'm glad we get to watch it. Now that we have this menu open, though, I want to return to the beach because there are some interesting things that we can add here now that we have dev mode enabled. So the first thing I want to add are some picnic blankets. And these are pretty outstanding because it would look like you are having a picnic on the beach. Now do know for a lot of these assets, it has to be perfectly flat for it to show up completely. So what I'm going to do is create small flat pads. Then we can add some deck chairs. These will also look really good on the beach. So we can have a couple of these. And then I think it would look nice to have a couple of these umbrellas as well. So we'll add a few of these on the beach. And then finally, I want to add some outhouses over here so that folks could go to the bathroom. We'll place those maybe over here. I was going to put them by the parking lot. That'd be really uncomfortable. So this is probably a much better spot. So this is about the best that we can do right now, but at least it brings some life to this area. Unfortunately, there won't be many people staying here for obvious reasons. I don't know why you'd walk here right now, but it is a place where people could go. Now for park number 3, we're going to take on a city park, and that is that big park right here. And the very first thing I want to do is completely remove all of the landscaping in the area. And then I want this to feel very organized. I've decided to add some tile through here and some benches. Unfortunately, I can't do anything to control the color of the benches, so they're all random. But I think they look okay and they're good from far, so we will live with that. I'm going to throw some park lights through here. And just like last time, we will use Legacy Flavor to go to night and then look very closely at what we're adding. I think we'll go with these this time. And once again, we will use our line tool. I don't want fence mode. I think 20 meters. We'll take a look. Probably not enough. We'll take it down to maybe 15 or closer. In reality, you'd want the light to be casting down and covering so that there's no black spots in between. Generally, there's a number of foot candles is what they're called that are required on walking paths. And it all comes down to the space you have in between the lights. So there we go. You can see that there's very small gaps in coverage, probably more than would be allowable, but we'll give ourselves one here. And now that we've got all the lighting in place, I'm going to add a little bit of extra detail. So let's go back to daytime. And now let's add a surface once more. And we're going to go with this nice manicured grass. And I'm wondering what the overlap looks like if I were just to try to overlap that center tile. It's not going to let me. So I'm going to take this in two halves. And there we go. That should cover the entire park. It is ready for some trees. And then I think I want to flank the park with some flowers to give this place a little bit more visual interest. So we'll go back into our fence mode, just drag those all the way along here. Those will not overlap the lights, which I'm happy about. And then finally, I want to add some more interest to both the outside wrapping here and then the inside here. So I think we'll add some small cultivated green bushes to kind of wrap around this area. And I'm going to be completely upfront with you and say that this is some of the most fun that I've had playing Cities Skylines 2. This was a lot of fun to build. Even if it's kind of messy, it's a little off skew, and maybe it's not perfect, I've really enjoyed building this. Let's move on to our final park build, which is going to be way over here, and this one will be our most complicated of all. We're going to build a small marina. Now, I think that this is something that a place like this would absolutely want, especially with the natural harbor right here. It only makes sense. So what we're going to do for this one is kind of line the back of this with a pedestrian road, and then we'll create a second tier down here where we have some commercial and some food vendors and things of that nature. And then we'll have a harbor off from there. And then we'll even have a break so that we don't have waves rocking the boats that are imaginary because they don't exist. So we'll just roll with it. All right, let's begin by flattening up here. Now let's be blunt. This is not the height of realism right here, but this is going to make me very happy, and it's going to make this place feel really unique. And sometimes I think you need to be willing to do that. So for this, we'll go with our pedestrian roads, and I want to clip to the back of the deepest building. Now the funny thing is I actually plan on making this a key, and it's already keying some of it, and it looks like I didn't go far enough back. So we're going to end up taking out a couple of homes, and we're going to have to be okay with a bit of imperfection. Now let's add a key to all of these. Now, interestingly, we have a node there. I don't know that I can get rid of that. I'm going to forgive that. Maybe. I can't. No, I can't. That's better. I can forgive that. Now you got to see me create a bit of what we're going to do next. And that's going to be a whole area down here that is relatively flat. Now the goal here is to have this to be deep enough to have a 3-unit deep building plus a pedestrian facility. And we'll grab one of these alleyways, and I think we should be able to line this up, snap to guidelines, zoning cell length, and the grid, and hopefully That's not going to work for us. Okay, it looks like I just had to find the right one. So this is perfectly aligned. It's just not far enough back. So let's pull this back. And there's the 3 tiles I was looking for. Now for the rest of these, it's going to be the same thing. I think we've got 2 more of these that we have to find. I'm wondering if I can just do something like this. That one worked. And there we go. We now have all of these paths in place. I need to find a way up here, and that's going to be just as simple as sloping up to it with a really small brush. It'll be steep. It's going to be really steep. And I'm going to be completely real with you. There would be people bringing their boats down here, and it would be an absolute nightmare. But we are going to forgive ourselves this one time and live with a bit of imperfection. Now, along here, we're going to use our pedestrian path. And I have an idea that might not work, but we're going to give it a shot. I want to go right along, and then we are going to shimmy our way towards the road and then convert it to be a key wall. And now we will convert this all to be a key wall, and I'm just going to go all the way along here. Now that's a key, and I should be able to shimmy this back using the replace tool. Let's get rid of all of our snap twos. I'm going to grab one side and then go all the way down here. And oh my goodness, it almost worked. There's a little bit of a gap, but I think one piece at a time, Johnny Cash style works. We are good. Now for the next part, we are going to terraform this right in. And I think we'll try to make this fairly shallow so we get a different color. And now to finish this off and make it seem like a harbor, we are going to just draw some bridges from the ends of these paths out, and I'm going to measure them by units. And here's where I say, Cities Skylines 2, you are wrong. This should work. And we are going to bypass validation for this. So we are really pulling out all the stops here. And this is under simulation. And then right here, bypass validation results. And now we have anarchy. You can see that this is fairly simple. I just went out 9 and then over 3, and I've done that on both sides, and I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to continue that pattern all the way up and down here. And there we go. This isn't perfect, but it's pretty darn good. And I think it's showing the intent. And now the last thing that we need to do is create basically some sort of break here. So we'll use our alleyway. And I think I was able to convert most of that to keys, but we just want to come in and double check. Yeah, I got to get the inside here. And that is pretty good. Now, obviously we could do this completely vanilla, but look at how easy this was with this one mod. We were able to quickly create this break. The one thing, because we've had anarchy on this entire time, kind of have a messy connection here, and I might just clean this one up and do something like that. I think that that looks outstanding. I absolutely love this. So the last thing that we have to do here is fill in this area a little bit. And for the most part, we're just going to be pretty low key with it. We'll have some commercial along here and some offices. And then what we'll do is use our surface painter. Once again, we'll grab some stone. And I want to create a plaza where people could sit and hang out. And we've got food carts and food stalls, and I want to see how those look around here. But this could make a nice little pedestrian area. There we go. Just created a nice outdoor dining area. You'd imagine this being a permanent fixture in the community. The last thing we need to do in this area, though, is clean this up just a little bit because it's pretty rough. So we will take this brush strength really low, the size rather, and then come along the back end here and just level this out nicely. And then when we get to the edges, grab the top height up here and slope up to it. Now it looks nice and clean. And just like that, all 4 of our parks are complete. Now we've got to do a little bit of landscaping and detailing. We're going to be taking our landscaping in 4 distinct steps. We are going to be adjusting our surfaces. Then we will do some detail work with rows of trees and things of that nature. After that, I will adjust some of the roads to add trees onto the roads. And then we will spray some trees or paint some trees. We'll use our tree brushes to add in trees in the areas that it makes sense. So let's begin with our surfaces. And now that we've got our surface work done, let's do some detailed landscaping. And now let's round things out by painting in some dense forest. And there we go. We've added a ton of detail to this build, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. The only thing that's kind of weird is I forgot that these surfaces won't get snow, so this looks a little bit weird, but let me know how you feel about it in the comments. If you want me to get rid of the surfaces, I will do that. If you want to hold out and see if this gets an update, let me know that too. But I think there's only one more thing left to do, and that is take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. And before we head out, I want to let you know about a couple of fixes that I made off camera. I forgot to add in our radio masts, so this whole place didn't have the internet, so I went ahead and added those off camera. I've also added sound walls in a couple of locations, so right here in particular, I wanted to make sure that kids couldn't run onto the highway from the football stadium, so we added that there. And in this neighborhood right here, I've added it to protect these couple of homes as well. I removed it right here so that you could see around the corner though, thinking about the way this might actually progress in the real world. I've also gone ahead and made a couple of fixes with landscaping. I removed the trees along the street here because now that we have this cliffside, it doesn't really make a ton of sense to have a bunch of bushes coming out there. So I think that looks a lot better. The other thing that I did is I added a bit of street trees. So I fixed it right here and along the streets here and tried to make it seem a little bit more complete and rational. Now you might be wondering why I didn't go the next step in this. If we're gonna go this detailed, I could certainly do custom parking lots and add ships and stuff like that through here. But the problem is I don't have anarchy in the game. And if I were to inappropriately place a ship or design a parking lot incorrectly, there's no way to delete it right now. So let me know how you feel about this level of detail generally, if you're a fan of it, or if you want me to peel it back, go back to being mostly vanilla, using dev tools sparingly or things of that nature. Either way, I've really enjoyed bringing this build to you, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching it. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I want to thank you for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing rather than listening to a stuffed up guy build a city in Cities Skylines 2, but you decided to hang out with me, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really can't wait to see you in the next one or on a stream. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.